1960, General Motors released a new truck that began to change the way people used and viewed trucks. Today, we're going to break down the General Motors CK series trucks. Post-war prosperity led to a boom in the car market, and General Motors was at the forefront. The 1960 model year marked a significant redesign, introducing a more modern look with a sleeker body and wider stance. This generation was not given a nickname by GM like its predecessor, the Task Force. Instead, they focused on the new nomenclature C and K, with the C designating the two-wheel drive trucks and the K designating four-wheel drive trucks. This generation of CK trucks were the first equipped with independent front suspension, which replaced the straight axle. This early adaptation of IFS sported control arms and torsion bars. There were two rear suspension options. The first was the standard on the half-ton and three-quarter-ton trucks, and that was the trailing arms and coil spring setup. And on the 1-ton and heavier trucks, they came standard with a leaf spring configuration. For powertrain options, you could go with a 235 or 283 Stovebolt inline 6, or you could step up to that 283 V8 with a 2-barrel carburetor, rocking 160 horsepower and 270 pound-feet of torque. Now, GMC also offered a 305 cubic inch V6 that had similar horsepower and torque ratings to the 283. Not much changed from 1960 to 1961 other than a few styling cues. 61 marked the end of the Apache, Viking, and Spartan nameplates, which ran only from 1958 to 1961. Apache was GM's name for the light-duty trucks, the Viking was for the 50 to 60 series trucks, and the Spartan was for the 70 to 80 series trucks. These were dropped in favor of the new C10 nomenclature. Also, just want to let you guys and gals know, for the sake of time, I'm really only going to focus on the C and K10 series trucks and not the heavier duty series. Also, these trucks all came with long and short bed options, as well as fleet side and step side options, but we're not diving into that either. We're just focusing on the CK series light duty trucks. The 60 and 61 trucks are now affectionately referred to as pig nose, and that's because of a hood that only a mother could love. And the 60 to 63 trucks, well, they're called knee knockers because you knock your knee on the A-pillar when you get in it. 1962 brought a few styling changes along with a new hood and new grille. Also, Chevrolet went to a single headlight design while GMC remained with the dual headlight design, even though they shared the same body. In 1963, GM revamped the independent front suspension and went with an upper and lower control arm with a coil spring, which is very similar to what we see in vehicles today. GM also strengthened the frame so you could do more work in style, and this was the last year of that beautiful rounded windshield. GM also did away with the Stovebolt inline 6 in favor for the 230 and 292 turbo thrift engine, which was launched the previous year in other models. The turbo thrift inline 6 remained in production in the States until 1988, was produced in South Africa until 1999, and was produced in Brazil and Argentina until 2001. In 1964, GM made the final major styling changes for this generation, which included a new grille and a flatter windshield that did away with that funky A-pillar people kept hitting their knees on. Gosh dang it, Margaret, I knocked my knees again! 1965 was another milestone for the CK trucks. You could now select air conditioning as an option, and the 20 to 30 series saw the introduction of the 327 small block, boasting a face-melting 220 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. That 327 made it to the C10s and K10s in 1966, and GM also introduced the 250 turbo thrift inline 6. By the late 60s, truck manufacturers began to take note that people were using their trucks for more than just work. They were using them for some pleasure activities. So GM began to adapt this multi-use model for their truck line. And in 1967, the new generation of C10s were introduced, the Action line. Action! 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 This totally redesigned body boasts sleek lines, a slanted hood. The frame and suspension were similar to its predecessor, and the powertrain options were the same, other than GMC introducing a 351 cubic inch V6. 1967 also marks the last year GM offered a small back glass C or K10. Up to this point, you could choose either a large or small back glass. The 20 series and heavier duty trucks continued to use the small back glass cabs, probably because they were already made and GM didn't want to waste them. There was only one body change to the 1968 C10, and that was the introduction of side markers due to government mandates. This year, the 283 was replaced with the 307, getting a 25 horsepower, 25 pound-feet of torque bump, but there was a massive game-changing powertrain option you could now get. You could order a 396 cubic inch big block, boasting 325 horsepower, 410 pound-feet of torque, which was the most powerful motor GM had ever put in one of their trucks. 1969 saw a front-end redesign with a steeper hood angle, new grille, and was the last year GMC offered its 305 or 351 V6 options. The 327 was replaced with the iconic Chevy small block 350, and in 1970, only the Chevrolet received a very, very minor change in the grille. 1971 saw another grille design for both lines. The 396 was replaced with the 402, even though they marketed it as a 400, but it did have a power loss of 25 horsepower and 70 pound-feet of torque. And the only change on the 1972 model was moving the mounting point of the rear view mirror from the roof to the windshield. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're watching right now, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would mean the world to me. And if you're digging this merch I'm wearing, I got the Yeah Buddy Garage camo hat, the Yeah Buddy Garage limited edition camo hoodie, and the Yeah Buddy Garage gray long sleeve. I gotta tell you guys and gals, this thing is super, super comfortable. I also got t-shirts, stickers, keychains, license plates. So if you wanna hop on over to the Yeah Buddy Garage website and purchase something to support the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. And just so you know, if we don't have something in stock, you can sign up for the Yeah Buddy Garage email newsletter. Now don't worry, I don't bombard your inbox with a whole bunch of junk. I just send out information when it needs to go out. I'm a meat and potatoes guy, no fluff. And I also want to let you guys and gals know that I don't take corporate sponsors on the channel right now. I really want to focus on growing the Yeah Buddy Garage community into something really good. And I want to make sure that when we do get these sponsors in, they align with the Yeah Buddy Garage community, and it's not just going to be for the sponsorship dollars. Back to the video. Please subscribe. 1973 introduced the third generation from C10 in a 15-year-long production run of possibly the most iconic Chevrolet truck ever made.
The square body.
Now, I don't know what GM was thinking or if they were trying to be funny, but they named this generation the rounded line. Literally the squarest vehicle they've ever made, they named it the rounded line. This generation can be broken up into two subcategories, being the 73 to 80, which have a round headlight, and the 81 to 87, which have a square headlight. Now, the 1980s kind of a funky year, but we'll get into that later. This generation introduced the first GM truck crew cab, which they were pretty late to the game because International had already been making crew cab trucks for 16 years, and Ford and Dodge had released their crew cab variations in the mid-60s. Also this year, GMC finally went with the single headlight design to match Chevrolet, but continued to produce slightly different grilles. The chassis and suspension were similar to the Action line, but GM replaced that 402 big block with the 454 that had a mind-bending 230 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque. There was actually a 70 horsepower loss and a 20 pound-feet of torque gain. This was also the last year of the 307 with no immediate replacement. From 73 to 79, the square body underwent a few cosmetic changes with the grills, badges, and emblems, but most of the changes came with the powertrain because we were going through a little thing called the 1973 gas crisis. During this time, automotive manufacturers shifted their focus from the luxuries of an automobile to the fuel efficiency of an automobile. 1977 brought a 305, which was a 30 horsepower and 15 pound-feet of torque gain over the discontinued 307. It was a good thing GM kept focusing on fuel efficiency because the world was hit with yet another crisis, the 1979 energy crisis. Now here is when we start seeing California emissions, smaller carburetors, other diesel engine options, and what eventually led us to fuel injection. Now GM could not keep producing the same truck forever, so in 1980 they released what I like to call the ugly duckling. It had the body of a 73 to 79 truck, and it had the grille of something. It wasn't quite the same old thing, but it wasn't really new either. In 1981, GM released the square headlight, rounded line, square body. They focused on aerodynamics and trimming the weight down of this truck. GM was able to shave 300 pounds of curb weight and make the truck more aerodynamic with a redesigned hood and lower front fenders. In 1982, the Oldsmobile 350 diesel engine was replaced with the Oldsmobile 379 cubic inch diesel engine, boasting a little bit more horsepower and torque. But the big change in 1982 for these trucks was the introduction of an automatic transmission with overdrive. The last major carburetor engine change was in 1985 when GM replaced the 250 Turbo Thrift inline 6 with a 262 V6. And then in 1987, everything changed. GM introduced throttle body injection. TBI ran from the late 80s to the early 90s and was a simple, indirect fuel injection. With this major change, these trucks were renamed the RV series, where the R stood for two-wheel drive and the V stood for four-wheel drive. But in 1988, the half-ton trucks transitioned to the new GMT 400 body style, but all of the other heavier duty square bodies remained in production until 1991. To this day, you will see all of these CK trucks on the road in all kinds of variations, from daily drivers to lifted to lowered to show trucks, bone stock, full custom. I mean, the possibilities are limitless, and the aftermarket support for these trucks is absolutely insane. I'm so fortunate to work with some amazing companies that love to keep these trucks on the road. And also, C10 people are some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. The C10 Club's got a saying. It goes, the trucks are cool, but the people are cooler. Thank you guys and gals for hanging around and breaking down the C10 with me.
Buy my merch and subscribe.